In the world of modern weapons, innovation is often imagined as smaller calibers, lighter recoil, faster rates of fire, and systems designed around speed above all else. Yet every so often, history pushes back. It reminds designers, soldiers, and strategists that progress is not always a straight line forward. Sometimes it circles back, carrying old lessons into new realities. The LWRC SMG-45 exists because of that reminder. It was born not out of nostalgia, but out of necessity, a deliberate return to a heavier caliber in an era obsessed with efficiency, precision, and modular warfare. At first glance, the idea seems almost contradictory. Why reintroduce a .45 caliber submachine gun at a time when compact carbines and intermediate rifle rounds dominate military and law enforcement thinking? Why invest in a platform that appears on paper to belong to a past defined by trench raids, urban patrols, and close-quarters chaos? The answer lies not in the past, but in the evolving nature of threats that modern forces face, threats that technology alone has not erased. The modern battlefield is no longer confined to distant front lines. It lives in cities, ports, aircraft cabins, and narrow corridors where reaction time is measured in heartbeats, not minutes. It lives in environments saturated with body armor, barriers, and unpredictable civilian presence. In these spaces, raw velocity does not always solve the problem. Reliability, controllability, and decisive terminal performance matter just as much. The LWRC SMG-45 was designed with this uncomfortable truth in mind. To understand why this weapon exists, you have to understand the tension that defines modern small arms development. For decades, militaries moved steadily toward lighter calibers and higher velocities, prioritizing controllability and logistical efficiency. The logic was sound. Smaller rounds meant soldiers could carry more ammunition, fire faster, and maintain accuracy under stress. But as protective equipment improved and adversaries adapted, questions began to surface. Was speed alone enough? Was penetration the only metric that mattered? Or had the human element, the psychology of stopping power, presence, and authority been quietly sidelined? The .45 ACP cartridge has always carried a reputation heavier than its ballistics. It is a round steeped in history, shaped by early 20th century warfare and law enforcement experience. Its defenders speak not in terms of velocity, but of momentum, reliability, and effectiveness at close range. Its critics call it outdated, heavy, inefficient. For years, it faded from frontline relevance, surviving mostly in specialized units and civilian markets. The LWRC SMG-45 did not resurrect this caliber to settle old arguments. It resurrected it to ask a new question: what happens when modern engineering is paired with an old, proven concept? LWRC International approached this challenge with a design philosophy rooted in restraint. This was not a weapon meant to overwhelm through novelty. Instead, it was meant to integrate seamlessly into contemporary doctrine, while quietly expanding the range of tactical options available to professionals. Every aspect of the SMG-45 reflects that intention. Its ergonomics echo platforms already familiar to modern operators, reducing training friction and mental load. Its construction emphasizes durability and consistency over experimental features. This is a weapon designed to be trusted, not admired. The development of the SMG-45 coincided with a broader reevaluation happening across military and law enforcement communities. Close-quarters engagements were becoming more common, not less. Urbanization, counter-terrorism operations, and protective details placed increasing emphasis on confined environments where over-penetration, recoil management, and immediate incapacitation carried enormous consequences. In these scenarios, the balance between force and control becomes razor-thin. The SMG-45 exists in that narrow space. Historically, submachine guns have always thrived during moments of transition. They rise when conventional rifles feel too large, too slow, or too indiscriminate for the task at hand. from early 20th century conflicts to post-war urban policing. These weapons filled gaps that doctrine had not yet fully acknowledged. The LWRC SMG-45 follows that tradition, but with a modern awareness of optics, suppressive environments, and modular support systems that earlier generations could never have imagined. What separates this weapon from its predecessors is not simply its caliber, but the intent behind its execution. The SMG-45 was built with an understanding that modern conflicts are as much psychological as they are physical. The presence of a heavier-hitting platform changes how space is controlled. It alters how threats perceive authority, risk, and consequence. In close quarters, perception can dictate outcomes before a single round is fired. The SMG-45 projects certainty in environments defined by uncertainty. This psychological impact is often overlooked in discussions of small arms, yet it remains central to their real-world effect. Weapons shape behavior. They influence how quickly confrontations escalate or resolve. A platform like the SMG-45 is not about maximizing lethality, but about minimizing ambiguity. Its design communicates purpose. It signals that this is a tool meant for decisive moments, not prolonged exchanges. From a strategic standpoint, the SMG-45 represents a quiet rejection of one-size-fits-all solutions. It acknowledges that no single weapon can address every scenario, and that specialization remains relevant even in an age of modular platforms. By offering a modern submachine gun chambered in .45 LWRC provided an option, a replacement, not a mandate, but a choice. In doing so, they reinforced an important principle of modern defense planning. Adaptability matters more than trends. Geopolitically, the weapon's existence reflects shifting priorities rather than shifting borders. As state and non-state actors operate increasingly within civilian infrastructure, the demand for precise, controlled force continues to grow. Heavy rifle calibers can be excessive in such environments, while lighter rounds may struggle against modern protective equipment. The SMG-45 sits between these extremes, a reminder that balance is often achieved through compromise, not dominance. The design choices behind the weapon also speak to a deeper respect for the operator. The emphasis on controllability, familiar controls, and mechanical reliability reflects an understanding of stress, fatigue, and human limitation. In high-pressure environments, simplicity becomes a force multiplier. The SMG-45 does not demand constant attention. It rewards consistency. It was built to function when conditions are far from ideal, when noise, confusion, and time pressure erode even the best training. Critics of the platform often point to its weight and ammunition capacity as evidence that it belongs to another era. But this critique misses the point. The SMG-45 was never intended to replace lighter systems across the board. It was designed for specific contexts where its strengths outweigh its trade-offs. In modern warfare, acknowledging limitations is not weakness, it is realism. Over time, the presence of the SMG-45 has influenced conversations beyond its own category. It has forced analysts and planners to reconsider assumptions about caliber relevance, engagement, distance, and mission-specific equipment. It has challenged the idea that progress always means moving away from the past. Sometimes, progress means understanding why certain ideas survived in the first place. The weapon's legacy is still being written, not in headlines, but in decisions made quietly by agencies and units tasked with protecting lives in unpredictable environments. Its influence is subtle, but persistent. It reminds us that technology does not eliminate risk, it reshapes it. And in that reshaping, older solutions can find new purpose when guided by modern insight. As we look toward the future of small arms development, the LWRC SMG-45 stands as a case study in thoughtful design. It is not a symbol of escalation, but of consideration. It asks hard questions about how force should be applied, where it should be restrained, and how equipment choices reflect broader values. In an age where innovation often races ahead of reflection, This weapon pauses long enough to do both. The story of the LWRC SMG-45 is not about firepower alone. It is about context. It is about recognizing that the environments we operate in are changing faster than our assumptions. It is about acknowledging that the past still has lessons worth listening to, especially when those lessons are filtered through modern engineering and ethical restraint. If this story made you reconsider what modern weapons are really designed to do, take a moment to share your thoughts in the comments. Like the video if you believe history still has a voice in shaping the future, and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the weapons that quietly redefine power, purpose, and responsibility in the modern world.